Today's gospel is from the book of John, the 4th chapter, beginning with the 5th verse. So Jesus came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria?" Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." The Gospel of the Lord. When I was a little girl, my mother read to me. Some of my favorites were Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel, Where the Wild Things Are, and The Giving Tree. Here is my original copy of The Giving Tree, a gift for my 7th birthday in 1975. I'm guessing many of you know this story about a tree who is female in the book and a boy. The boy comes to the tree, swings from her branches, gathers her leaves, and climbs her trunk. The boy loved the tree, and the tree was happy. Over time, as the boy grew older, he visited the tree less often. When he did, he always needed something, and the tree always gave. The tree's apples were gathered and sold for money. The tree's branches were taken to build a house. The trunk was cut down for a boat to sail away. The book ends when the boy, now an old man, comes back to sit for a while on the tree's stump. And the book ends with, "The tree was happy." As I got older and became a parent myself, I grew uneasy about this book. In fact, I didn't read it to my children as much as I had anticipated I would, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. I will come back to that. Today's service honors the tradition of thank offerings. When I sought to learn more about the early work that led to this tradition, I was fascinated to learn about the Lutheran women who formed a missionary society in 1879 in order to raise funds. Why did they organize? To support two young women who wanted to be foreign missionaries but had been denied funding by the Board of Missions because they were women. How fascinating is it that women who wished to give were denied the funding to do so? As a result, a national women's structure emerged, and here we are nearly 140 years later, honoring the resistance and persistence of the women who wouldn't take no for an answer. How much do I love that? Over time, the tangible mechanism of thank offerings was demonstrated through small boxes that would sit in one's home as a visible reminder of all that you had and as a call to give. People were inspired to drop coins into the boxes on a regular basis, and they were collected annually and celebrated during a thank offering service. And here we are. When I think about giving thanks, that seems to me to be an action, often directed at someone or something, saying thank you, sending a thank you note. The act of being thankful is intentional and involves others. What about when you are the giver? Do you give in order to be thanked, or do you give out of the selfless joy that it brings to you and to others? When the tree gave, the tree was happy. What happens when you give? What about when you give, or to whom, or under what circumstance you give? Giving sure feels easy when we have enough or when we are giving to people or causes to which we feel drawn. Moreover, being thankful is swell when things are generally going our way. What about the hard times? You know, those dark moments in our lives? Giving, when all I can do is keep my head above water with the demands and responsibilities to, for example, my family, my job, seems hard, out of reach even. And I don't know about you, but it is harder for me to be thankful during the difficulty that life sometimes throws my way. We all have our stories of hard times and what got us through those dark days. Some of mine include moving halfway across the country when I was 15 and then being bullied by my new classmates, struggling to find my way in college with a direction for my life that felt right, the transition to parenthood, losing my mother to cancer. It's easier now to look back on those times with the clearer sense of what I was learning in those challenging moments. But in the middle of those times, while I was slogging through the endless dark and the light at the end of the tunnel was invisible to me, to what and to whom did I turn? There were people in my life in those moments, giving me support, advice, a shoulder to cry on, a reassuring word just at the right moment. How have I shown up for people and given during their dark moments? Cheryl Strayed, in her book, Brave Enough, says, stop asking yourself what you want, what you desire, what interests you. Ask yourself instead, what has been given to me? Ask, what do I have to give back? And then give it. People of faith often turn to rituals that focus their mind, rituals like prayer, regular worship, or daily devotion. Anne Lamott, who writes about faith and family and community in essays that are irreverent and wise, offers this, and I quote, prayer is taking a chance that against all odds and past history, we are loved and chosen and do not have to get it together before we show up, end quote. In today's world, there are dozens of daily Bible verse devotional apps or social media hashtags like #blessed with little emoji folded hands that you can download or follow to invite the reminders for the routine you seek in your life. I'll be honest, some of these I find simplistic and downright irritating. Are you really blessed because your favorite team won their game on Saturday? And the overuse of blessed for me can take on the tone among people of privilege that feels more like #I deserve this abundance than it does of actual, deep, reflective gratitude. And like the boy, do we only show up to those rituals when we need something? Or are we equally likely to share prayers of thanks when all is well, as we are to offer prayers asking for strength, healing, or help in times of great need? I can only speak for myself here, but I will say I fall short. How is it that I can go about my daily business and sometimes forget to end my day in prayer? But when I yearn for the wisdom and strength to get through hard decisions or difficult days, to God is the first place I turn. Am I being like the boy, only showing up when I need something? Lamott offers this, and I quote, "My belief is that when you're telling the truth, you're close to God. If you say to God, I am exhausted and depressed beyond words, and I don't like you at all right now, and I recoil from most people who believe in you," she says that might be the most honest thing you've ever said. She goes on to say, "If you told me you had said to God, it is all hopeless and I don't have a clue if you exist, but I could use a hand," she said it would bring tears to my eyes, tears of pride for the courage it takes to get really real. It would make me want to sit next to you at the dinner table, end quote. So what are we called to do as Christians? In today's gospel, Jesus said to the Samaritan woman, "Give me a drink." Now, first of all, Jews and Samaritans weren't supposed to speak to one another, and men were not permitted to address women without their husbands present. Wayne Jackson, in one of his Christian Courier articles, says, "Here is where the Son of God, therefore, in one fell swoop, broke through two barriers, the one steeped in racial bigotry, the other a hurtful, sexist disposition that distanced the man from one of the sweetest treasures of God's creations." In other words, Jesus tossed out the rules. But the woman wasn't so sure, pushing back and saying to him, "How can you ask me for a drink?" I'll cut to the chase here. Jesus offers a gift of living water, of salvation. He reveals himself to be the Messiah, and the interaction between Jesus and the Samaritan woman becomes a story of faith and of our undeserved gift of love, forgiveness, and grace. How are we called to give? To those with whom we are not supposed to associate? To those for whom life has been burdened with a lifestyle full of transgressions upon which society frowns? And why do we give? So that we will receive thanks, or is there something else at work? Let's go back to the giving tree for a moment. What was it about the story that got under my skin as I grew older, even though the memories of that book as a child were so fond? Gratitude. It comes down in part to gratitude. Although there is a mutual playfulness reflected in the boy's actions with the tree early on, that gives way to give and take later. The tree gives and the boy takes. The feminist in me bristles at the implication that women are expected to give and give and give, and the man in the story just takes without so much as a thank you. The socialized gender role reflected in the story can have damaging effects on how we interact with one another, evident still in today's world. This later realization was a bit ironic for me. A strong feminist woman raised by a strong feminist mother. But what I have come to realize is that the tree is much like God, giving to us freely, even when we only show up needing something, and even when we fail to say thank you. And so here we are, less than 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving, and on this Thank Offering Sunday, I call us to mindful awareness of giving and receiving. I ask that we strive to remember to care for those for whom asking for help feels like it undermines dignity and is therefore hard. I ask that we give freely and joyfully, even when there is no thank you. I ask that we meet people, all people, with kindness and generosity, no matter their circumstance, identity, or ideology. I ask that we show compassion to our neighbor, not even when, but especially when, we differ from them in ways that are important to us. Theologian Karen Armstrong reminds us that the practice of compassion has to be consistent. It does not work well, she says, if it is selective. If, as Jesus explained, we simply love those who are well disposed toward us, no effort is involved. We are simply banking up our own egotism and remain trapped in the selfishness that we are supposed to transcend. Thank offerings provide us an opportunity to give, to show gratitude for God's blessings, and provide a tangible way to express that gratitude through our giving. Saying thank you by giving matters. I share a final quote from Anne Lamott. She says that gratitude begins in our hearts and then dovetails into behavior. It almost always makes you willing to be of service, which is where the joy resides. It means that you are willing to stop being such a jerk when you are aware of all that has been given to you in your lifetime and the past days. It is hard not to be humbled and pleased then to give back. I close with a prayer from Marian Wright Edelman, found in her book, Guide My Feet. Oh God, help me to feel your presence everywhere I go today, to see you in everyone I meet today, to sense you in all that I hear today, to reflect you in all I do today, to pray to and trust you in all I experience today, to struggle to be like you in all I am today, to speak of you and for you in all I say today, to thank you for everything, every day. Amen.